Let's knit the Blossoming Gardens shawl. This shawl uses 3 skeins of yarn and has lots of fun stitch patterns. It's an asymmetrical triangle shape. We start at the tip in garter stitch, and then we introduce a really fun floral motif. And then we have some fisherman's rib and some lace as well. So grab your yarn and needles and the pattern that's linked down below, and let's knit this shawl. So let's take a closer look at this shawl. It's got a nice long wingspan, which is something I really like when I'm wearing a shawl. So it starts here at the tip in garter stitch. Then we introduce this fun floral stitch and some more garter stitch. Then we move on to fisherman's rib in 2 colors, which is very similar to brioche. It's worked differently, but the fabric is exactly the same. And then we've got a nice section of lace right here that leads into our next 2 colors of fisherman's rib again. And then we finish off with some more garter stitch and some more flowers, and we're finishing with some flowers right along the edge. So it's a really fun knit. There's lots of like fun stitch patterns going on here, and the color changes, so there's a lot going on, so it keeps it interesting. So you're going to want 3 skeins of yarn. So I'm using Hypnotic Yarns Plush Sock, which is a blend of 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. But any sock yarn, 3 skeins is going to work just fine. To keep it simple for colors, if you pick 2 that are sort of in the same color family, and then introduce a complementary color, and that should work just fine. But if you have 3 skeins of sock yarn that you think look good together, then they'll probably work just fine for this. You'll also want your knitting needles. We're using a US 6, which is a 4mm. A 32-inch circular cord would be the best choice because you're going to end up with a lot of stitches, and you'll need a place to hold all of those stitches. And you're going to want a locking stitch marker, at least just for the beginning, because we're working in garter stitch and it can be difficult to tell which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side until we move further along in the shawl. And of course, you're going to want to grab the pattern. You'll find that linked down below. So let's get right into the cast on and the setup. Before we do that though, there are a few notes that you'll find in the pattern. We're going to be working a slipped edge stitch, just 1 stitch at each edge. You want to keep that pretty loose. We want our shawl to have a nice stretchy edge. We're also going to be working a double increase on one side and a single decrease on the other, and that's going to give us this asymmetrical triangle shape. We'll be increasing extra stitches on this side, but taking one away over here. So on every increase row, every right side row, we'll be adding 1 stitch and moving 1 from this side to this side. So you want to make sure you're working that increase pretty loosely along with your edge stitches, just to keep things nice and loose. So to begin, we're going to just cast on 6 stitches, and I'll demonstrate how to get like set up so you know how you're working things. So you can use any cast on method you prefer. I think I'm just going to use the long tail cast on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my 6 stitches. Our first setup row is just to knit those 6 stitches. Now we're going to start increasing. So we're going to do a knit 1, and then a knit front, back, front. So knit into the front, keep the stitch on there, and I'm keeping it pretty loose. I don't want to have a tight edge stitch here. I'm going to go into the back, pull that through, and then back into the front, or into the front again. That's 3 stitches. We took 1 and we're turning it into 3. Then we knit 1, knit 2 together. We're working a decrease on this edge, and then slip 1 with yarn in front and slipping that last stitch. Our wrong side rows in garter are pretty simple. We're just going to knit to the last stitch and slip that stitch with the yarn in front. And we're back to the right side. It can be helpful to like put a little marker here so you can tell which side is the right side. Once we get going, you can see by like the way it looks how this side is increasing and that side's decreasing, but until you can really tell which side's the right side, it's helpful to just put a marker there. So our next setup row, knit 1, do that knit front, back, front again. So front into the back of the stitch, and then into the front of the stitch. And I'm doing this pretty loosely. There we go. Then knit 2, knit 2 together, and slip 1 with yarn in front. And our wrong side row, is just knit to the last stitch and slip that stitch. Okay, so that's our setup. Now the next section is just to work garter stitch. So we're all set up now, and I'm going to show you, basically we're going to keep doing the same thing that we've just done. We're going to knit the first one, work our double increase, knit into the front, go into the back of the stitch, knit into that, and then into the front one more time. Then knit to the last 3 stitches. Work a knit 2 together, and then slip one with the yarn in the front. We're slipping purlwise. And our wrong side row is just the same. We're not tightening up this stitch though. Just be careful not to tighten that up. We want to keep our edge stitch nice and loose. So we knit to the last stitch, and slip one with yarn in front. So that is it for the garter stitch. You want to keep doing that. You can see how it's kind of already forming its shape. You're going to keep doing that until you have the number of stitches that the pattern tells you you need. So you're just going to work that double increase, work to the end, work a decrease, and then slip that final stitch. We're going to do that until we have enough stitches to work our first floral motif right here. So it's time to work our first flower motif, and every time we work these, we're going to stop doing the increases and decreases on the edges and just focus on the flowers. So the first row is just to knit. So I'm just going to finish knitting this row. And slip that last stitch with the yarn in front. Okay, so now we're going to do our first row, which is a wrong side row. So we're going to knit across on the right side, turn our work a wrong side row. So on the wrong side, we're going to knit 3. And then we're going to wrap the yarn extra times as we do our next section of knit stitches. So we're going to knit 1, but we're going to wrap the yarn 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And pull all 3 of them through. We're going to repeat this 4 more times. 1, 2, 3. There's number 2. And then another time we're inserting and we're going to wrap 3 times. That's 3. That's 4. And here's number 5. So we do that 5 times. We have 5 stitches with 3 wraps. And then we just knit 1. And that knit 1 kind of, it's the stitch in between each of our flowers. And right now it can help us, like if we forget how many we've done, we can, well, there's our knit 3. Then we can look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our knit 1. So we're going to just repeat that. So insert and wrap the yarn 3 times and do this 5 times all together. Three. Here's my 4th. Here's my 5th. And then knit 1. Then if you're not sure, stop and count, make sure you have them all. Let's do that one more time. So we're going to wrap 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finish with our knit 1. And then for the last 2 stitches, we're just going to knit 1 and slip 1 with yarn in front. So that's the wrong side row. So then we turn. Now we can work a right side row. So this is where we're going to make our flowers. We're going to get all of those wraps to turn into these cute little flower stitches. So we'll start by knitting 2. Knit that first one loosely. That's our edge stitch. Purl 1, and now we can work on our flower. So we're going to keep the yarn in the back. We're going to slip the next 5 stitches with those 3 wraps, dropping the extra wraps. So slip them purlwise. We're inserting as if to purl and dropping those extra wraps so we get these long stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's my other stitch, my next that knit 1, so we just want to keep that there. So then the next thing we do, bring the yarn to the front, slip all 5 of these stitches back, bring the yarn to the back between the needles and slip the stitches back this way. And then we're going to repeat that one more time. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitches to the left needle, move the yarn to the back, and slip the stitches to the right needle. So now we've wrapped them twice. You can see there's 2 little yarn wraps around that flower. And that's it for making the flower. So then we purl 1, and we repeat that with our next flower. So insert into that stitch and drop the extra wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we wrap them. Bring the yarn to the front, slip them all over, yarn to the back, slip them back to the right needle, yarn to the front, slip them over again, yarn to the back, and slip them to the right needle. And then we purl that stitch, and one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn to the front, after you get used to them, you get a little bit of a rhythm going. And then purl 1, and then knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. So that's how you work those. And then now we're on a wrong side row again, and we're just going to knit across, and we want to make sure we knit all of those flower stitches. Each one has 5 stitches. So we're going to knit to that last stitch and slip that last stitch with the yarn in front. So I'm up to my first flower. If it helps, sort of separate them with your fingers or the needle. You want to knit each of those strands to finish these flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then repeat it for the next flower. So I'm just going to knit all of these stitches till I'm at the end and slip my last stitch. So we've got a couple of these, I think 3 of them in our first garter stitch section. Then we're going to come back to these right at the end of our shawl and work 4 more of them right along the edge. They're going to be a nice finished edge for us as well. Okay, and that's how you work that flower stitch. So our flowers are complete, and if they look a little bit weird, what you can do is sort of go in and like just use your finger to move the threads like that wrap so it's sort of centered in the middle of the flower. But I figure after a wash or whatever, they kind of fix themselves. But if they're looking a little wonky, you can kind of spread them out and fix the wrap. You're going to do a little more garter stitch and repeat those flowers a couple more times, and then a little more garter stitch, and then we'll get into the fisherman's rib. Now we're doing 2-color fisherman's rib, so that means we're going to work our stitches with 1 color, slide them back, and then work row 1 again with our 2nd color. Then we turn our work and we'll work row 2 twice as well. So it's 4 rows altogether, but you're working each of those rows twice, so technically 8 rows. So for row 1, we're going to keep going with our shawl shaping. So knit 1, knit front, back, front. Then we're going to knit 1 below. So what's happening with the knit 1 below is we're not knitting the stitch that's on our needles. We're knitting the stitch that's underneath it. So not here, we're going here into this stitch. Knit 1 below and drop that one off the needle, and it kind of creates a wrap around that stitch. And then purl 1. We're going to repeat that to the last 3 stitches. So don't knit into the stitch here, go into the stitch underneath the one that's on your needles and knit into that. And you'll see as you drop it off, it's sort of creating a wrap around that stitch. Purl 1, knit 1 below, purl 1. You're just going to repeat this to the last 3 stitches. Knit 1 below, purl 1, knit 1 below, purl 1. And it is helpful if when you're working this part to every time you finish your 4 rows, put in a lifeline, because if you mess up a stitch or something like that, it's kind of difficult to fix in Fisherman's rib because of those knit one belows and purl one belows. So just use lifelines, and then you can rip back to the lifeline and work from there. So we're at our last 3, so we'll knit 2 together, slip 1 with yarn in front. Oh, actually no, that's wrong, sorry. Slip 1 with yarn in back at this point. Things change a little bit on the edging for our Fisherman's rib. To maintain these really nice slipped edges, we're going to change things just a little bit. So I have to pay attention to my instructions there. Things have changed a bit. So I finished row 1 with color A. Now I want to slide my stitches back, and we're going to do row 1B with color B, or whichever color you're using next. So we're going to slip this first stitch with the yarn in back, and then purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Those are our increased stitches. So purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. And then we're going to, those stitches that we did the knit 1 below, we're going to knit them. And then the purl stitches, we're going to do a purl 1 below. So just like the knit, but we're going to purl this time. Yarn's in the front. We're not going to purl this stitch. We're going to come into this stitch underneath and purl that stitch. Bring the yarn through and drop that stitch off the needle. Then knit that knit stitch, purl 1 below. So we've established the pattern with our first color, so now we can see what's going on. That's a knit stitch, so we're going to knit it, and then we want to purl 1 below into the stitch, not the stitch that's on the needle, but the stitch that's underneath. Wrap the yarn, pull it through. So you're going to work this. Okay, to the last 2 stitches. Then we're going to slip 2 with the yarn in back this time. We're still slipping purlwise, but the yarn's in the back. Now we can turn our work, and we're going to go back to using our color 1. So in this case, the darker lavender color. So we're on a wrong side row, and like before, we're going to work this row wrong side twice. So we're going to work it with our dark color, slide the stitches back, work it with our light color. So we're going to start by purling 2. And then knit 1 and purl 1 below, just like we did on the other side. And now that we've established the pattern, we can see the stitches. Like that's a knit stitch. We can see the column of knit coming out of here. So we knit, purl 1 below, knit, purl 1 below. Once you've created the pattern, it's pretty simple to keep doing this. But the hardest part is if you drop a stitch or mess something up. It's hard to fix because of the purling and knitting below. So I find it's best just to use a lifeline, and then if things mess up, then you can just rip back to the lifeline and repeat that section again. Okay, so we're gonna repeat this to the last few stitches. Purl 1 below, and then we knit 1 and slip 1 with yarn in front this time. So you just want to pay attention to your edge stitches because you are doing different things whether you're on a right side or a wrong side, just because we've got these edge stitches to maintain on each side. And we don't want to see like the yarn we're carrying, because we have 2 yarn colors going on here. We want to keep our edge nice and clean along the side. And I wanted the green, in this case, to stay dominant on the outside. So there are a couple things you want to pay attention to as you're knitting the edges. Make sure you're slipping the yarn in the right direction. So that was our first color. So now we're going to slide our stitches back and do row 2 again. So row 2B. So we're going to bring our yarn to the front, slip 2 stitches with yarn in front, And then we can move our yarn to the back. Now we're going to do our knit one below again. So knit one below, so not into the stitch, but into the stitch underneath. Knit one below, purl one. Knit one below, purl one. You're just going to follow this pattern. That's our first 2 rows, but of course each one is done twice. And then it's 4 rows all together, but it's pretty much the same except for the edge stitches, so you'll just want to pay attention to your edge stitches. Okay, so we're right up on the edge. We're going to do another knit one below and then slip with the yarn in front, and that's row 2. So row 3, we're back on the right side. We want to grab our color 1 again. And this is another increase row. So knit 1, knit front, back, front, and then knit 1 below, purl 1. So we're back to our knit 1 below, purl 1. Once you see the pattern forming and you're on the right side, you can see which color should be dominant and for the knits and which one should be more recessed for the purls. So I'm just going to continue this knit 1 below, purl 1 to my last 4 stitches this time. Okay, so last 4 stitches, knit 1 below, knit 2 together, and then slip 1 with the yarn in back. So slide them down and we're going to repeat row 3. All right, so we're going to slip 1 with the yarn in back, and then purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. And then maintain our pattern again, knit 1, purl 1 below, knit 1, purl 1 below. We're going to do that to the last 3 stitches. So I'm up to my last 3, I finished with a purl 1 below. I'm going to keep the yarn in the back and slip all 3 purlwise. So both my yarns are now over here, so I can turn my work. So row 4 is the last row of our repeat for the Fisherman's Rib. So grab your color 1. We're going to purl 2. And then start our repeat. Purl 1 below, knit 1. And that stitch, because we slipped them all, that stitch is a bit loose because the yarn's hanging there, so just give it a little tug so it stays about the same size as the rest. So knit 1, purl 1 below. We're going to do this to the last 3 stitches. Knit 1. And then our last 3, we're going to do a purl 1 below. Knit 1, and then slip 1 with yarn in front. Then we want to repeat row 4 for our other color, so we slide our stitches down, grab that yarn. So this is row 4B. So with this one, we're going to slip 3 with yarn in front, keeping the yarn right here, slipping these 3 stitches. Then we can take it to the back and knit 1 below. Ooh, trying not to split my stitch. Purl 1, knit 1 below, and repeat that to the last 2 stitches. And we finish by doing a knit 1 below, and then yarn to the front and slip that stitch. So that's all 4 rows. Technically 4, but actually 8 because we're doing each one twice, and that will get us our Fisherman's Rib. So once you get the pattern established, it's very easy to follow. The only thing you want to pay attention to are your edge stitches. We want to keep like whatever is like the primary color dominant along the edges, and that's why we have to slip some extra stitches here and there to keep the color that's the purl stitches towards the back. So you're going to do that next, and then it is right into the lace section. There are a few setup rows for the lace as well. So with the lighter color, you're going to work 2 setup rows. So we're going to work our increase again. Knit front, back, front, and then knit to the last 3 stitches. And work that knit 2 together. Slip 1 with yarn in front. We're back to doing that again. Okay, so setup row number 2 is to establish the background of our lace is stockinette. So we want to do a row of purl stitches just to get ourselves situated here. So we're going to knit 3 and then purl to the last 3 stitches. And then knit 2 and slip 1 with yarn in front. All right, so that's our setup. So now we're ready to begin the lace. It just adds a bit of stockinette stitch there on the bottom. So for the lace, it's fairly simple. You're just doing yarn overs, and I'll demonstrate the central double decrease, which is what we're using for our decrease stitches. And you can see there are the very prominent lines that come through right here. Those are our central double decreases. So we are creating this stacked leaf lace pattern. Now the shawl instructions, they have written instructions and they also have charted instructions. It's 40 rows all together. It's all charted out because we are going to continue increasing along the edges for the shawl. So you can follow the written instructions or the chart. I'm going to do just part of one row so you can see how it's set up, but it's actually pretty simple. As long as you know how to do a yarn over, and I'll show you how to do a central double decrease, then it just kind of, they stack up on each other. You do one row and then you can use that as your guide because your yarn overs for the next few rows will stack up right on top of the previous row. And then after you finish one section, it kind of offsets itself and you have the next repeats over on the side, then it offsets itself again and it's back here again. So you're just gonna be working this lace section next. So we'll continue doing our shawl increases. So knit 1, knit front, back, front, and then whether you're following the written instructions or the chart, there is like the red box, that's what you're going to repeat across the length of your shawl, and then there's some stitches to either side. So of course we have like our stitches for our shawl shaping, and there might be some other stitches just to maintain the lace as much as possible along the edges. So for this particular row, I'm going to do a knit 3. This is row 3 of the pattern. And then a knit 2 together to start our lace. And then the lace repeat. I'm going to show you what the lace repeat is right in the center. It's very simple, and it changes each time you do. There's like 8 rows altogether for each of the little motifs, and then you repeat and you do the next section of 8 and the next section of 8. So things adjust a little bit, but it's still the same basic stitches. So you're going to knit 3, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3 again, and then our central double decrease. We want that center stitch to stay right on the top. So to do that, we're going to take the next 2 stitches, slip them together. So insert into the second and then into the first, like you're going to knit them together, but you're not going to. You're going to slip them to the right needle. And then knit this stitch. And then take your needle into both of those stitches and pull them up and over. So it puts that center stitch right on top. And then you would repeat what's in that box. In this case, in the first 8 rows, it would be knit 3, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3, and then work that central double decrease. Then you have some stitches left, and the chart will tell you how to work that. So in my case, it's knitting a few more, doing some yarn overs, and then finishing my shawl edge by doing a little bit of decreasing. So the lace is pretty simple to work. Once you get the pattern established, everything sort of stacks up on top of each other, and there's charts and written instructions so you can follow whichever one you want. And then once you've done the lace, there's a few setup rows to do to begin the next section of Fisherman's rib. So when you're switching to your next two colors, so I'm just going to pretend that I've finished my lace. I've worked back to the right side row. We've got two setup rows to work to get us ready to start working our Fisherman's rib again. So our first setup row is like everything else we've done. We're going to knit one, do our double increase, knit to the end, and then do our decrease. And then setup row 2 is like we've been doing for the lace. We're just going to knit 2, purl to the last 3 stitches, knit 2, and slip 1 with yarn in front. And then you can move right on to the Fisherman's rib that we've just done just previously. And then once you've completed Fisherman's rib again, which you've already done once, so this time it should be pretty simple, you're just switching colors, it's back to some garter stitch, so you get a bit of a breather in there. And then we've got another flower here, and then a little bit more garter stitch, and then we're just going to finish with 3 more flowers. So they're going to go right up to the edge. You'll just do one after the other, following the flower pattern. Now to offset them, because you can see we've got one here, and then one here, and then one over here, you do want to make sure you're looking carefully at the instructions, because there are some slight differences, so we can get this offset pattern. But that's all spelled out in the pattern. It has a section of garter stitch, and then it tells you flowers, and you're working this right here. And then final flower edge, it'll tell you you're working this and then working this again. So our last step is to bind off, and we want a nice stretchy bind off for this part, because we want to like really emphasize the scalloped edge of these flowers. So we're going to use Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off, which means between each knit stitch we do a reverse yarn over, and those yarn overs add some extra stretch to our bind off edge. So we knit one, we reverse yarn over. So instead of bringing our yarn up like that for a yarn over, we're coming over the back and to the front of the right needle. Then we knit one, then we're going to pull that yarn over in that first stitch up and over this second stitch. And that's 1 stitch bound off. Now we're just going to repeat that. So reverse yarn over, knit one, bind off by pulling those first 2 over that second one. Reverse yarn over, knit one, pull them off like that. And you're just going to keep doing this across the row. Reverse yarn over, knit one, till you've bound off all the stitches. And that little yarn over in there gives it a lot of stretch. So you just want to keep doing that until the last stitch, and then you're just going to pull your last break the yarn, pull it through that last stitch, and then you just have to weave in your ends. So grab your yarn and the pattern that's linked down below, knit this shawl along with me, and if you're looking for some other tutorials, I'll put a playlist right here with some other tutorial videos that you can find here on Nerdy Knitting.